UFC 259, that was an incredible card. Really, I mean, every fight afterwards, I kept on going to Joe going, I can't believe there's another 4 fights, another 3 fights, another 2 fights, another 1 fight. Incredible work by Jan Blachowicz. He definitely edged it out against Israel Adesanya. I was a little surprised a little bit by the scorecard. A little bit.
Yeah, I said that as well. I'm pretty sure one was 58-55. I know it was close.
48, 48.
48-45. Yeah, 48-45. I thought it was pretty close. I didn't think it was that far off.
I thought Jan won probably 3 rounds to 2.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, perhaps. But it wasn't. They weren't like very close round. They were for quite. Some of those rounds were pretty close. You can argue that it went one way or the other.
Yeah. You could argue that perhaps Israel Adesanya's significant shots on the feet were more significant than Jan's takedown.
Yeah.
When he just stayed in half guard, and he never really progressed. And then when he did progress to side control, he'd kind of just slide his leg back into half guard, and then just. It's not a bad position if you want to knock out elbows and things like that, but he never he wasn't that busy. He wasn't that busy, to be honest. But Jan did incredibly well. The man's got power.
Yeah.
Izzy just took every shot. And
he managed to keep his distance. Well, he was always everyone was always saying, "Oh, when's Israel Adesanya?" Even though the fight starts on the feet, everyone wanted to see how good his grappling skills on the ground was. Jan really was the guy to test him, because at one point he had his back standing up, and what he wanted to do was, I think it's in the past, but Jan has actually set up a standing Das.
No. Standing rear
naked. And, there was a point where Israel Adesanya almost slid into that rear naked as well.
Yeah, and then managed to just tuck his shoulder and roll out of it.
Yeah. Well, one thing about the fight was, right off the bat, I said to you that something's up. He looks very, very different. He wasn't playing his theatrics like he was last time.
Is he eccentric and flamboyant?
Yeah,
and like
he likes that kind of stuff. He wasn't doing any of that this time around. This time it was just, he just walked into the cage and then he crossed his arms completely when Bruce Buffer was calling out his name, and I was just like, something's up.
It was a different kind of demeanor than we're used to.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a different fight than we were used to be honest. Just because Jan was very tentative, and for good reason. Adesanya is a very good counter striker, and Yoromero tried to do a similar game plan where trying to goad Izzy to come forward, where he can then rush you and catch you, and it worked a couple of times for Jan as well. Definitely got in some brilliant shots, but. I was expecting a little bit more action for Jan, to be honest. I was expecting a little bit more busyness. I felt, especially in that first round and probably the second round as well, first 2 rounds for sure, very tentative. The pace was very, very slow. But then as the fight progressed, I started to see that the volume in which they were fighting at was still taking a toll on Jan. Jan, with the takedown attempts and the numerous submission attempts he tried, he started to get a bit tired, especially in that 5th round. That 5th round, he was very, very, very tired.
Yeah, he even finished the end of the 5th round in the top position in the mounts, and he was starting to rain down hammer fists on Adesanya.
Yeah.
Another point that I have to mention for Jan was the fact that he's got a really quick jab. He was really, really utilizing his jab. He was going for the body, he was going for the head, and I was like.
And third and fourth round, he started to use a bit more.
Yeah.
Started to become a bit more busy. That's what his coaches told him to do. He said, use the jab more, and it worked. He kept on catching Izzy. It was quick.
Yeah, and especially when you get a jab from a light heavyweight like Jan, considering...
It's different.
Yeah, it's different. And also because Jan was heavier than Adesanya. Adesanya came in, 4 pounds, 3 pounds underweight?
4.5 pounds.
4.5 pounds underweight.
He was 200.5, while Jan, obviously for a title bout, has to be flat on 205. But they were saying, he certainly cuts down, especially in diet, on the way down like any fighter.
Yeah.
And then does the water cut. And Jan must have been 220, 225.
225, yeah.
And, you could tell that there was a difference in weight when not so much on the feet. On the feet, it was fine because Izzy still had a height and reach advantage. You know, it was not super significant. I think he was only 2 inches taller than Jan, but it works for Izzy's style because you know he will fade back. He will lean back a little bit just to be out of shot, and he did have some brilliant fades back, and he would be able to just come out of range. Right, it worked really well. You could just tell that the size advantage played a big role on the ground.
Yes.
When Jan was in half guard, got into side control, and then eventually in the 5th round, he actually got full mount and just was raining on him. Izzy was trying everything. Like, he's a purple belt under, I think, he's got his own Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym in New Zealand or something, but he was upgraded to purple due to, I think it's Atos.
Yes. I know the one you're thinking of. Yes, yeah, correct.
And you could just tell, you know, he's trying his hardest to push up with his hips.
Yeah.
He's trying to shrimp out of there, and even sometimes he's, you know, creating a little bit of space so he can shrimp out, but you could tell he just wasn't. He was too heavy, and also Jan, like, he wasn't just in the top position. He'd scoot his hips so high up to Izzy's shoulders where there's very little you can do. Very little you can do. It would have been interesting to see how long the fight would have lasted for a couple more minutes, but anyone can say that in a fight. I think the main thing was Jan had a little bit of trouble in maybe probably the 2nd round the most.
Yeah.
And then whenever Izzy would fade back to come out of punching range, Jan would time the takedown really well. His fade back to avoid punches is really good. However, without using your feet to come back, makes it super susceptible to be rushed at and for the takedown. And it just worked for Jan, especially in the later rounds where he started to grapple, because he didn't grapple at the start. He grappled closer to the end. He used kind of Izzy's fade back style against him. But as soon as he would fade back, he would rush him. Try and take him down because, you know, he's kind of off balance as soon as he's leaning back like that. You know, it doesn't work always at the time, because then he's got your timing. So he knows that for you to reset to the normal position, it takes a bit of time, so they can rush you. Yeah.
Plus, when you got a guy like Jan rushing at you, and
scary.
Yeah, especially got all the extra weight. What is it? I think.
Izzy's got a chin, though.
Yeah, he does have a chin.
For someone that has so much kickboxing experience.
Yeah. Because when he was taken down a total of, I think it was four times.
There's more than that.
Yeah, more than that. I think Jan just understood that it was working, and that was the way how he was going to beat him. And then so he would because takedowns, a successful takedown scores pretty highly, I would say, in that. I feel like that was one of the reasons why he won, was because he had those strong takedowns, and Israel just didn't have much way of defending it. I feel like that's definitely a valid reason to why Jan won that fight.
Which is why I understand maybe the judge's decision. Yeah. Well, no, I don't agree with it, but I understand it because I think on their criteria, they think that as soon as they get a takedown, significant takedown, when there's a difference between if they pop back up.
Yeah. Is it then?
Is it that significant? If it's more of a trip, they get down, scoot back up, and there's no damage inflicted, there's no volume of punches, there's no, you know, if they're stuck in full guard and they don't move anywhere, or half guard, and they don't really do anything significant, and they're just chilling, is it significant? Probably not. But I can understand why the judges maybe gave a more exaggerated scorecard to favor Jan.
Yeah,
I think
because then it's controlling the pace. It's octagon control, which that's what it counts for, and that's one thing that the judges often look for. But then again, this is one of those times where I wish that we could just have the judges come to the press conference and say we scored Jan Blachowicz the score because da 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 da.
Yeah,
rather than us just having to speculate.
I do agree with that because we've talked about it before, and Dana actually said at the post-fight press conference of maybe 5-10 minutes ago, he said a lot of them were scoring 10-8 rounds across the UFC 259 card. And he was like, a lot of these 10-8 rounds are definitely competitive 10-9s.
Yeah.
And they were scoring 10-8s for no real reason. I mean, the only 10-8s that really comes to mind is perhaps Islam Makhachev later. And we'll talk about that later on.
Yeah.
But that kind of sambo pressure where you tie up their legs in that kind of like mermaid position.
Yeah.
They tied up both legs, the legs are crossed in that mermaid position, and they can't get up, they can't defend it, they're just taking shots.
Yeah.
When it's that one side, I get there's a 10-8. Very rare do you get a 10-7, but it needs to be really significant for you to be like certain. You have to be certain it's a 10-8 for you to call it a 10-8. Often 10-9 is a go-to because most rounds are competitive. So I don't understand that from the judge's position. I just feel the criteria is a bit shit. The criteria is a bit shit, and it will be for a very long time. I think so. It's difficult.